let me do this. Let me talk a little bit about this process and financial freedom. Okay, that would be a good discussion to have, but I'm going to lay some groundwork first for you. Okay. To me, to get financial freedom, or another way to say it, do well in business, make money, and so on, has two essential parts to it. One of those is the how do you do it? Okay. How do you find a product you want to sell, for example? How do you promote yourself? How do you sell it? There's accounting things that go into it, maybe, and some legal things. And that's all the how to do it stuff. Okay. There are thousands of books out there about how to do that. And so I don't get involved in it. The other part of it, which we do get involved in, which is important in this conversation, is the emotional freedom that we need to pursue it, to pursue money, finances, wealth, and that kind of thing. All right. And to me, in my experience, you can read all the how-to books in the world, but if your emotional stuff says, no, don't go there, it won't matter. Okay. You need to have that freed up. And that's what we're talking about, correct?
Yes.
All right. So what often happens, and just about, I don't want to say everybody, but many people have this kind of thing. They grow up and they develop some beliefs about money, beliefs like that aren't good for the financial freedom, beliefs like rich people are greedy. In order to get rich, I have to step on somebody else. I have to lie, cheat, and steal. It's not spiritual to be wealthy, that kind of thing. Okay. Now, let me ask you, I just mentioned a few things. In your upbringing, was any of that in there?
Yeah, rich is not good. It was a socialist area time. I raised in Russia, so at the time in 80s, it was still not very open to be rich, even though people been more and more making money. But in the environment that I was in, on my mother's side, she was very conservative, and riches was not. What I'm trying to say is, she was asking, what I got out of her, basically, don't be flashy, don't stand out, save your money for black days, something like that, stuff like that.
I'm making notes here. Hold on a second.
All right.
Okay. So now I have to guess a little bit here, Stan, because I don't know enough about you, to be accurate in what I'm saying. So you need to correct me where necessary. Okay. But I think I'm hearing behind your mother saying these things is that there's some penalty. Maybe you're not aware of it or not, but maybe even a hidden penalty if you are flashy, if you stand out, if you make a lot of money, if you do that, she's not going to love you. If you do that, you'll be a social outcast. If you do that, God won't love you. I'm making it up, but how am I doing?
Yeah, it's true. It's like, it's not okay to, I know it's not okay to stand out in a way. It's not okay to have a lot of money. In a way, yeah.
Okay. Now, do I understand correctly that you got that kind of a input very young from your culture, for one thing, the Russian culture, and from your mother? And as a young boy, you just developed it's not okay to make a lot of money.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
And let me get back to the penalty thing for a minute. Suppose you were in Russia and you did make a lot of money. What would the penalty be as far as you're concerned?
The way she told me, someone gonna complain to your police, will come over and arrest you.
Okay, so if you made a lot of money, somebody in the neighborhood or someplace would complain. The police would come to see you. Okay. Well, that's a pretty good sized penalty. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what's happening here, and I think it's good, Stan, is you are laughing at it because it seems silly looking back at it. Am I correct?
Yeah.
All right. Very important thing here. So let me address this. Logically, this is how I see it. Now you correct me, okay? Logically, it's fine to make all the money you want. You're American, and that's what you do, and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Emotionally, Am I right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Now, the emotional stuff is stuff you got when you were a young child, all right? Growing up in a culture that money, no, not so much, and a mother and no, all that. And until you resolve those beliefs emotionally, they're going to keep replaying, and they're going to literally stop you from making financial decisions that brings more wealth. I want to make sure that
No, I agree with you. I understand that. Yes.
Okay. All right. So what we need to do, and it's going to be a process, Stan, but what we need to do is to start looking at the specific events in your life that are emotionally charged, that develop those beliefs. Okay. We're going to bring in an unseen therapist about those and have her then help give you some resolution on it. Now, what I can do here is to help you with one of those to get you started. Okay. It would be a series, but you have our whole course and the advanced materials and stuff you can get into, to go as far as you want on that. But I do want to give you this one beginning start. Okay. So what we want to do is go back and look for a specific event in your life. And the further back we go, Stan, the better, where your mother or somebody said something to you and you really believed it, okay, about money. It's not okay to stand out, or the police are going to come and get you, or something like that. Have you identified one of those, a specific event like that?
Yeah, one of them, it's going to be, let's say 5 or 6. My mom was telling me that her father-in-law was telling his wife, my grandma, that before he went to jail, he wants them to work from paycheck to paycheck.
Well, I didn't hear that. He wants them to what?
To work. He wants them to work from paycheck to paycheck.
From pages to pages?
Paycheck. No, paycheck.
Oh, paycheck to paycheck. Oh, okay. All right. So, okay, now say that to me. I lost the track of who said what to who. It was your father-in-law. I missed that.
My grandpa was telling to my mother. No. My grandpa was telling to my grandma before he left to a jail to raise them to the level that would be able to work from paycheck to paycheck. And his rationale was he used to be a manager of a jewelry store, and he was making good money, and somehow it got him to trouble. So he asked his wife, my grandma, to get them a profession that will get them from paycheck to paycheck.
Okay. So, and you're present in this conversation. You're hearing this conversation.
No, my mother told me.
Your mother told you about this. Okay. Now, what's going to be important about this is when your mother tells you this is what's really important in the whole thing. Okay. It isn't so much what she said or what your grandfather said to your grandmother about the paycheck to paycheck. The really important thing is what you at age 5 or 6, how you responded. What did you say to your, oh, that's a fearful thing. Oh, I always need to be in power. What did you, if you can recall, what was your emotional response when your mother told you that?
I feel like I'm shrinking. I feel like I'm afraid.
Okay, and you would be afraid of what?
I don't know. I just feel afraid. I feel intimidated. Maybe out of the money. Afraid to make. Am I afraid to disobey my grandfather's word, my grandfather's request?
Well, you're 5 or 6 at this age. Are you somehow, as far as you can remember? I know it's a long time ago. Okay, so we'll just do our best here. But are you somehow at that age thinking it's your responsibility
to make more money or less? What do you mean?
Somehow your responsibility that you can at least make paycheck to paycheck, or the family can live paycheck to paycheck?
I won't say no to it. I want to say no. I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. Well, it's not. Okay. I was just exploring because I always want to explore and see what's possible there. But somehow or other, you're hearing about the paycheck to paycheck comment. You are afraid.
Yeah.
And we're not able, because it's been so long ago, so far anyway, to be able to pinpoint what the fear is about.
Right.
Okay. Now, close your eyes for the moment for me. We need to do a little testing. Right? Go back to that moment. There is your mother telling you the paycheck to paycheck thing. And tell me now, as you get into it, on a scale of 0 to 10, how intense is your emotional response now as you remember it?
I want to cry. I don't know why I feel sad. I don't know. When I close my eyes, I just see a huge house that my grandma used to live at.
A huge heart?
House. A big house, yeah. But it's more as a sadness now than anything else. I'm sad. I know. Am I sad because she's unintentionally misleading? I don't want to say lying. But maybe anyway, maybe it was her belief that I just took it on myself.
Well, okay. Let me get back here for a second. What's important for what we're about to do? We're going to bring an unseen therapist in a bit, okay? What's important there is how you feel currently as you look back at it. We're not going to be able to change any of the details, who said what to whom, or the Russian culture, or anything like that, okay? It's your response that we want to shift. That we can do, okay? But we need to do it properly. All right. And we'll do it with this specific event. You need to do it with some other specific events. And then after a while, this starts to clear and you begin to get freer financially because you are logically free, but not emotionally free. Okay. So we're going to do the emotional free things a piece at a time. Okay. Now, so estimate for me on a scale of 0 to 10, as a moment ago, as you were getting into it, I saw your face do like that. On a scale of 0 to 10, what intensity was that? Was it a 3, a 5, an 8, a 9, what?
I'll go for 9.
All right. And again, I want to get to the sadness. It's sadness. Why would your mother tell you that? Be more specific if you can.
Yeah, why would she would tell the 5 or 6 years old anything like that? It's like feels like she's putting me in a box or like a trap in a way.
Okay. Well, let me for the moment, and again, remember, I'm guessing, to give ideas, so always correct everything. But I'm going to put myself in your mother's shoes. Now, I've never been in Russia. I'm not your mother. I don't know her. But I have been having a conversation like this before. So let me lean on that kind of thing for a bit. So I'm trying to put myself in your mother's shoes. Now, your mother, obviously older than you, more experienced than you. She's been raised in the Russian culture and all of its limitations on money and the beliefs around it. I'm going to guess for the moment that she's trying to, with not only this comment, but other comments, make sure you understand your place in this world. Otherwise, you will stand out. The police will come and get you, or it's a way to keep you safe. Would I be accurate there?
Yeah.
Okay. So we can understand why your mother was saying it. It may not be the best thing to say, and we're not excusing necessarily what she says or the behavior, but we are trying to understand it, and there's a difference. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the only reason I say that is because when we bring unseen therapists in, we want to put as much on the table as we can about this. Because if we're hiding stuff or forgetting stuff and it's under the table, she's not going to bother with that, because that's your right to have and hide or repress or whatever you want. It's your right to do. And it's a very unloving thing to take that away unless you're willing to put it on top of the table. Okay. So with this understanding, we move more towards, okay, that's what mother was giving me at the time. And that's what I, Stan, was believing in. I had no choice. I'd be right there, would I not?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, you're surrounded by the Russian culture and your whole family and all these beliefs and everything else. And you're still carrying them around in America. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. With that in mind, let's do a little unseen therapist session. We'll make it really easy because I'll just narrate the whole thing for you. Okay. All you do is follow along and let's just see what happens. Okay.
Right.
All right. So if you would, Stan, just close your eyes and take a nice, deep, relaxing breath. Good. Now, as a simple way of inviting the unseen therapist, just recall some loving moment in your life. Doesn't have to be a grand thing, a dog looking you in the face or something with a child or a lover or just a loving moment. And whenever you're there, just nod your head. All right, good. All that is, by the way, is the unseen therapist, or that's you doing your best to align yourself with the pure love of the unseen therapist. That's all that is. Okay. You and I aren't there in all this pure, magnificent love of the unseen therapist, but she is, and she can help us, and she can bring this love into this emotionally laden, specific event. So now let's just shift for the moment to your age 5 or 6. And let's look at this through your adult eyes now as you're looking back at it. And there's young you. You were being told by your mother, about this paycheck to paycheck idea from your grandfather. And by the way, he's going to jail, and there's a bunch of negative stuff about all of that anyway. And she tells you this, and you feel currently, looking back at it, feel very sad about that. And maybe you're even still feeling somewhat afraid, because that's how you depicted what you were feeling at the time back then. So you have this emotional response to it. And because of our earlier conversations, Stan, we recognize that emotionally you have this response, but logically doesn't need to really be. We need to somehow or other resolve this so you're still not carrying it around. We need to release it, relieve it, and this kind of thing. So we're going to hand that to the unseen therapist and see what happens. So if you would, let's just represent these emotional responses to this paycheck to paycheck statement as a unwanted vibration around your heart. Ta-ta, 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 ta-ta. Now, we're not asking you to actually make your heart vibrate. It's an imaginary thing. It's a metaphor. Okay. So unseen therapist sees this. She sees it with a very understanding light, with a lot more wisdom, certainly you would have at age 5 or 6, and more than you and I would have even at this older age. She sees it with compassion. She sees it with understanding. She knows that mother was likely trying to do her best in your behalf, and maybe not anywhere near aware of the impact that it would, that and other statements would have on you. So unseen therapist in your imagination then sends a loving, cooling, healing breeze, gentle little breeze towards you. It enters your system. It surrounds this imaginary, unwanted vibration around your heart, this sadness, this afraid emotion, and begins to calm it down. It goes, the heart, the unwanted vibration goes in your imagination.
Sorry.
In your imagination goes, ta-ta, 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 ta-ta. Now, let's do that again. There you are, age 5 or 6. You're being told the paycheck thing. You're looking at it through the adult eyes now. You can see the belief, the emotional response, the sadness, maybe some fear. Ta-ta, 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 ta-ta. Here comes the cooling breeze. Ta-ta, 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 ta-ta. And so while staying, just, I would point out, sometimes we tend to flit off into other events. But for the moment, stay on this particular event and take your time and do it again in your mind, and then again, and maybe again if you want to, etc. Here's all this emotional response, ta 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 ta, the cooling breeze, ta 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 ta. And just keep doing that until you somehow or other say, well, that's as far as I can go. And by the way, there are no grades for this. We're just going to do it and then talk about it. Okay. So I'll wait quietly while you do that. And whenever you're done, just open your eyes and we'll talk.
Okay.
All right. So let me ask you, Stan, were you able to follow along well, or did you have a lot of competing thoughts, or what went on?
Towards the end, I was following well. In the beginning, it was unrelated events. Everyday problem.
Everyday problem, like every day now as an adult?
Yeah, I need to fix my car. This is what
You have to fix your car?
Yes.
Okay. So your mind flipped over there. But then after a while, you were able to follow along?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, don't feel alone. People flip all over the place. Our egos have this chatter, always going on. Did you feel anything during that process? Not that you have to. I just want to know if you did.
For some reason, I felt more fear from my mother, but I feel a little bit more calmer.
Wait a minute. You had more fear for your mother?
No, I did see her, but she was afraid of something.
Oh, okay. All right.
Right. Yeah.
All right. But what we're looking at now, yeah, and that may well be, yes. In fact, maybe we talked about it when she was trying to protect you in her own way,
Yes.
to make sure that you understood where your place was in life and all of that. Okay. And maybe she was afraid because grandfather's going to jail. Could be. Okay.
Yes.
But what we want to get to really is your response to it. That's always the important part of it here. So you said you felt calmer?
Yeah, I feel calmer. I'm not sad.
Well, do this for me, Stan. We always need to test these things. It's not just, okay. We started off with a 9. That was your estimate, a 9 when you went through it. So now close your eyes, run that movie again, and see if you're still a 9 or maybe more or less or whatever.
One second.
I didn't hear it.
No, it's actually 10, but it's anger, and it's anger towards my. It's like a wall. It's like a black wall, like a cloud.
All right. Now,
either it's anger or maybe it's even a rage.
Or even rage.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's stop there for a second. Let me play teacher for a moment. Okay. What we addressed, what we put on the table for Unseen Therapist was sadness and maybe some fear. That's what we put on the table, right? Now, that was a 9 before we began. I remember that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So now we go through it, and what you're telling me is you're a 10 and it's angry, you're really mad, and it's even close to rage. Yes, okay. Anger is a different emotion than sadness or fear. Do you hear that?
Yes.
Okay, so what you did, and many people do that, it's one of the more sophisticated things that people need to understand about how the EFT process works, is you switched aspects. And in your advanced course, that's lesson number 3, if you want to go back and review that, okay? You switched from the sadness, maybe fear thing, or sadness, maybe fear, to anger, all right? Now, what we want to really test, is how we did with the sadness and the fear. So let me ask you now, if you can, just do your best here, okay? Close your eyes, go back to that event now, and stay only on the sadness, maybe the fear issue. Stay only on that and tell me on a scale of 0 to 10 if that's still a 9 or some other number.
The sadness is 0. The fear, maybe 1-ish.
Okay, so it's diminished way down is what you're telling me.
Yes.
Okay, but you shifted over to anger.
Yes.
Okay, now let me ask you, when you shift to anger, and I have to guess again here because I don't know what you do inside your head, so you correct me again. When you shift to anger, are you shifting to anger about that particular incident, or is it anger about a whole series of things that went on in your life?
Most likely the series of things that happened in my life.
Okay. All right. Okay. So now let's sort of summarize here for a moment, because I'm going to give you a path to go down from here. Okay. We started off with a concern about financial freedom. Okay. We had a discussion about, early on in your life, you were given a whole bunch of beliefs, which you quite naturally bought into, culture-wise, your mother and so on, the paycheck to paycheck specific event was one contributor to that. Okay. Now, we worked on that one contributor, and it's from its original place, it went from a 9 to a 0 or 1, way down. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So that impact on you, that contributor to your financial limitations, your emotional financial limitations, we did something important with. Now, what you'll want to do, and we're recording this for you so you can go back over all these instructions, okay? What you're going to want to do is tomorrow morning, you're going to want to test that again, but stay on what we worked on, which is the sadness and so on, okay? And see what's there. Now, you may well get the anger again, okay? That wouldn't surprise me, okay? But you may get some other emotion. You may get some other piece of that event. Maybe somebody else said something you forgot about. Now you remember it, okay? Maybe you're having a discussion with one of your friends afterwards, and then something happened and you remember that, okay? These are all aspects, other pieces, and you need to do this thoroughly to get it really done well, okay?
Okay.
Now, I'm going to back up one second. I'm going to give you another piece to all of this, which is also in your advanced course, but it's called the tabletop and table legs. Do you remember that item?
Yes.
Okay, well, let me go over just for a moment, just so we're clear here. This would be a tabletop, and it's supported by table legs, okay? Remove the table legs, the tabletop falls, okay? Now, the tabletop here, for our purposes, is I have limits to my financial freedom. That's the tabletop. It has lots of table legs under it, which are the specific events, like the paycheck to paycheck specific event, okay? Now, we probably did something with that. That's one guy, but there's more. There's more there. So the financial limitation doesn't leave until we've dealt with more of the specific events that underlie that. Other things mother may have said, other things your friends said, other things you learned from the culture, specific events, specific events, specific event. Then you do those, and you only need to do 5, 10, 15, 20 of them really, really well and thoroughly, because even though there may be hundreds, if you do them enough, thoroughly enough, it sort of generalizes over all the rest, okay? And you get freer and freer and freer.